7:14 a.m. The Persian Gulf, 73 miles northeast of Bahrain. The Ardmore Alpha platform, a floating production storage and offloading vessel, a FPSO, operated by a joint venture between an American energy company and the Saudi National Oil Authority, moored above one of the most productive hydrocarbon fields in the northern Gulf, 412 meters long, displacement of 330,000 tons, capable of processing 300,000 barrels of crude oil per day and storing 2 million barrels in her hull tanks at any given moment. By any measure, one of the most significant offshore energy assets in the Persian Gulf. On this particular Thursday morning, 60 American personnel were aboard. 31 platform operations staff, engineers, technicians, safety officers, and maintenance crew from the operating company's Houston headquarters and regional offices. 11 contract specialists brought aboard to oversee a scheduled maintenance cycle on the primary separation equipment. 18 members of the permanent Ardmore Alpha crew. The platform's 2 emergency response boats were in their davits. Its fire suppression systems were tested and certified. Its emergency beacon was mounted on the communications tower, ready but not needed. It was about to be needed. At 7:14 a.m., 4 IRGC Navy fast patrol boats emerged from the northeast, closing at high speed. They approached from the direction of the Iranian territorial waters boundary, running hard on a direct intercept with the Ardmore Alpha's mooring position. By the time the platform's watch officer identified them as IRGC naval vessels and reached for the radio handset, the patrol boats had already taken up positions at the platform's 4 main access points, 2 at the main equipment deck level, 2 at the waterline boarding ladder positions. 12 IRGC Navy personnel per boat, 48 total, armed with assault weapons, with a heavier crew-served weapon mounted on each boat's bow position. The IRGC boarding commander broadcast on VHF Channel 16 in English. The Ardmore Alpha platform, he stated, was operating in violation of the Islamic Republic of Iran's sovereign maritime rights in the Persian Gulf. All personnel were to assemble on the main deck and remain in place. Any attempt to use communications equipment to contact outside parties would be treated as hostile action. Any attempt to activate emergency systems would be treated as hostile action. Armed boarding teams were coming aboard in 90 seconds. The platform's operations director, a civilian, unarmed, responsible for the safety of 60 people on a floating structure sitting on 2 million barrels of crude oil, had no meaningful choice. He ordered his personnel to the main deck assembly point. He did not reach for the emergency beacon. He did not have to. The Ardmore Alpha's automated position reporting system had already transmitted a distress alert to the U.S. Coast Guard and Fifth Fleet at the first approach of the IRGC vessels, a system installed 12 months earlier following a Fifth Fleet advisory on offshore platform vulnerability in the northern Gulf. The automated alert reached Fifth Fleet headquarters at Bahrain at 7:09 a.m., 5 minutes before the boarding commenced. In Tehran, the seizure of the Ardmore Alpha had been approved at the highest levels of the Supreme National Security Council 72 hours earlier. The strategic logic was layered and, its architects believed, irresistible. The platform represented American commercial interests, American personnel, and American energy infrastructure operating in waters that China and Russia had both explicitly recognized as falling within the zone of Iranian sovereign interest. Seizing it would create a crisis that combined economic pressure. The platform's crude production would immediately flow under Iranian control, with diplomatic leverage of the most powerful kind. 60 American civilians in IRGC custody on a structure that contained 2 million barrels of crude oil, and that any military recovery operation would have to approach with extraordinary caution. The SNSC had specifically selected an offshore platform rather than a vessel, because a platform cannot be driven to a friendly port. It stays where it is moored. 60 Americans on an immovable structure 73 miles from Bahrain, surrounded by IRGC naval vessels, with 2 million barrels of crude oil beneath them, creating a self-imposed constraint on any American military response that involved weapons. You cannot conduct a forced entry against a platform that could be ignited. You cannot fire weapons at IRGC personnel standing next to crude oil processing equipment. The platform was the perfect fortress. The crude oil was the perfect shield. That was the calculation. The IRGC had made 5 catastrophic mistakes. The first mistake: they had assumed the automated distress signal would take time to generate a response. They had allocated 90 minutes to consolidate their position aboard the platform before any American military asset could arrive on scene. 90 minutes was the time their operational planning had assigned between boarding and the arrival of any credible response force. The planning had been based on an assessment of Fifth Fleet's normal readiness posture. It had not accounted for the elevated readiness condition that Fifth Fleet had been maintaining for 11 days, following an NSA intelligence assessment flagging IRGC interest in Northern Gulf offshore installations. At the time the distress alert reached Fifth Fleet at 7:09 a.m., response assets were not at normal readiness. They were at maximum readiness, pre-positioned, pre-briefed, and pre-authorized. The second mistake: the platform was not defensible against an assault from above. The IRGC commander had positioned his 48 personnel and 4 patrol boats to defend against any surface approach. The boats covered every waterline access point. The armed teams controlled every deck-level boarding position. The platform's superstructure, however, was wide open to the sky. 140 meters of main deck, a 200-meter storage and processing section, multiple helicopter landing pads, and a superstructure that provided concealment from surface observation, but none from overhead. The IRGC's defensive plan had been built entirely around the surface threat dimension. It had no vertical component. There was no anti-aircraft weapon aboard any of the 4 patrol boats. There was no man-portable air defense system issued to any of the boarding teams. The sky above the Ardmore Alpha was undefended. The third mistake: the 2 million barrels of crude oil beneath the platform was, the SNSC had calculated, an absolute constraint on American weapons use. No missiles, no airstrikes, no explosive ordnance anywhere near a structure containing that volume of flammable hydrocarbon. The calculation was correct for general-purpose weapons. It was not correct for the precision, low collateral damage weapon systems that had been specifically selected for inclusion in the offshore platform recovery package that Fifth Fleet had pre-authorized. The AGM-114 Hellfire missile carried a shape-charge warhead of less than 9 kilograms, precise to within 1 meter, capable of engaging a human-sized target on a deck without producing the thermal signature required to ignite crude oil at the distances involved. The weapons in the response package had been specifically selected to operate in the crude oil environment. The SNSC had not known this when they chose the platform as the perfect fortress. The fourth mistake: the IRGC boarding commander had ordered all 60 American civilians assembled on the main deck's forward muster station, a single, concentrated location that placed all non-IRGC personnel in one known position. This was a control measure. It was also an intelligence gift. Within minutes of the consolidation order, the platform's internal CCTV system, which the IRGC had disabled the external feeds of but had not fully controlled, leaving internal feeds accessible to the platform's automated systems, was providing Fifth Fleet with a real-time picture of exactly where all 60 American civilians were located and exactly how many IRGC personnel were in immediate proximity to them. The fifth mistake, the one that collapsed the entire strategic concept of the platform as an untakeable fortress, was a fundamental misunderstanding of what naval special warfare had been doing for the previous 11 days. The SEAL team that was already airborne at 7:06 a.m., 8 minutes before the IRGC vessels reached the Ardmore Alpha, had been rehearsing the Ardmore Alpha recovery scenario on a classified platform. Mock-up at a naval training facility in Bahrain for 11 consecutive days, since the NSA assessment had specifically named offshore platform seizure as the most probable IRGC escalatory action in the Northern Gulf. They had the platform's exact deck plans. They had the CCTV system access codes. They had the crude oil proximity protocols for every weapon in their loadout. They had rehearsed every compartment, every access point, every muster station. They had rehearsed the specific scenario in which 60 civilians were assembled on the forward muster station, under armed guard with IRGC patrol boats at the waterline. They had rehearsed it 14 times in 11 days. They were not approaching an unknown problem. They were approaching a rehearsed solution. What happened in the next 44 minutes removed the Ardmore Alpha from IRGC control and removed the IRGC Navy's Northern Gulf operational capacity simultaneously. The execute order from 5th Fleet reached all response assets at 7:16 a.m., 2 minutes after the boarding commenced. The two MH-60M Blackhawks of the 161st Special Operations Aviation Regiment had launched from Al Muharraq Air Base adjacent to Bahrain International Airport at 7:06 a.m., 3 minutes before the distress alert had even been processed, based on the IRGC vessel tracking data that had been relayed from the E-2D Hawkeye orbiting at altitude northeast of Bahrain. 20 SEAL operators. Flight time to the Ardmore Alpha at maximum speed, 26 minutes. At 7:18 a.m., 4 F-35A Lightning IIs from the 34th Fighter Squadron at Al Dhafra Air Base, which had been on 5-minute alert since the elevated readiness condition had been imposed, were airborne and turning northeast toward the platform at supersonic dash speed. Their mission: establish air superiority over the platform, neutralize the IRGC patrol boats at the waterline using precision Hellfire and 20mm cannon fire at the moment the SEAL team assault commenced, and provide direct close air support to the recovery operation. Critically, all weapons employment pre-cleared against the waterline patrol boat positions, which were at sufficient distance from the crude oil processing infrastructure to allow engagement without thermal ignition risk under the specific environmental conditions confirmed by the platform's CCTV feed. At 7:19 a.m., 8 additional FA-18 Super Hornets from USS Harry S. Truman, operating in the Central Gulf, her position unknown to IRGC intelligence, launched on the pre-planned strike package against the IRGC naval infrastructure that had generated the boarding force. Their targets were the IRGC naval station at Qeshm Island, 41 miles east of the Ardmore Alpha, which had served as the staging point for the 4 patrol boats, and the IRGC patrol boat base at Lavin Island, 67 miles to the northeast. Between these two facilities, the IRGC maintained its primary Northern Gulf fast patrol boat force, the operational backbone of everything it had put on the water at 7:14 a.m. Eliminating them eliminated the IRGC's ability to reinforce, resupply, or conduct follow-on operations. Simultaneously, from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, 6 F-35As launched at 7:20 a.m. with JASSM-ER cruise missiles. Their targets were the IRGC Navy headquarters facility on Qeshm Island, the command node that had planned and authorized the Ardmore Alpha seizure, and the IRGC Naval Fuel and Logistics Depot at Bandar Abbas that supplied the Northern Gulf Patrol Boat Force. The F-35As from Al Dhafra arrived over the Ardmore Alpha at 7:33 a.m., 16 minutes after their launch and 15 minutes before the MH-60Ms. They established a holding pattern at 8,000 feet, invisible to the IRGC personnel on the platform's decks. Their targeting pods locked onto each of the 4 patrol boats at the waterline. They were watching the CCTV feed relayed through the platform's automated system. They could see every IRGC team member on every deck. They could see all 60 American civilians at the forward muster station. They were waiting for one event: the sound of the MH-60M rotors. At 7:42 a.m., the 2 MH-60Ms arrived from the southwest at 50 feet above the water, invisible against the platform's hull from the perspective of any IRGC observer watching the surface horizon. They came over the platform's main deck at mast height, their approach masked by the platform's own superstructure until they were directly overhead. 20 SEAL operators deployed on fast ropes to 4 separate deck positions simultaneously. the forward muster station, the processing deck amidships, the aft helipad, and the portside equipment deck, in a 4-point simultaneous insertion that divided the IRGC boarding party's attention across the platform's full length in the same moment. The F-35 has engaged the 4 patrol boats at the waterline the moment the first SEAL operator's feet touched the deck. 4 Hellfire missiles, 1 per boat, fired in a 2-second sequence. The patrol boat's crew-served weapons, the heaviest threat to the SEAL team from below deck level, were the aim points. All 4 boats sustained direct impacts. All 4 were rendered inoperable at the waterline within 5 seconds of the SEAL insertion commencing. The IRGC personnel aboard the boats who survived the initial impacts were no longer capable of directing weapons fire at the platform decks above them. The recovery of the forward muster station, where all 60 American civilians were held, was the SEAL team's primary objective and first action. The 12-operator element assigned to the muster station reached it from 2 directions simultaneously, arriving from the forward equipment deck stairwell and the portside external ladder in the same 4-second window. The IRGC guards at the muster station, 6 personnel, were overwhelmed by speed, numbers, and the coordination of an assault they had had 0 warning of. All 6 secured. All 60 American civilians confirmed unharmed at 7:48 a.m. and 31 seconds, 34 minutes and 31 seconds after the boarding commenced. The remainder of the platform clearance operation, securing the processing deck, the control room, the aft sections, and the accommodation block, was completed by the remaining 8 SEAL operators over the following 11 minutes. All 48 IRGC boarding personnel aboard the platform were secured or had abandoned the platform by jumping from the lower decks, an action that was observed and recorded but not prevented, as ROE did not authorize engagement of personnel who had discarded weapons and were in the water. At 7:59 a.m., the SEAL team officer transmitted platform secure confirmation to 5th Fleet. At the same moment, the F/A-18 Super Hornets from USS Harry S. Truman were releasing their weapons against the IRGC naval stations at Siri Island and Lavon Island. The Siri Island IRGC station, which housed 12 fast patrol boats at its pier complex and the barracks and operations facility for the Northern Gulf Patrol Force, was struck by 16 AGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missiles targeting the moored patrol boats and 8 GBU-38 JDAMs striking the operations facility and barracks structure. Of 12 patrol boats at pier, 11 rendered inoperable. The operations facility, structural collapse confirmed. The Lavon Island Patrol Base received 12 Harpoon missiles against its 8 moored patrol boats and 4 JDAM strikes against its fuel storage and maintenance facility. 8 patrol boats at pier, all 8 rendered inoperable. Fuel storage, secondary detonation following JDAM impact. The JASSM-ER strikes from the Al-Udeid F-35 has reached Qeshm Island at 8:09 a.m. The IRGC Navy headquarters facility, a 2-story command building with an adjacent operations annex and communications tower, received 8 JASSM-ERs in a strike pattern that collapsed the main building, the operations annex, and the communications infrastructure simultaneously. The command node that had planned and authorized the Ardmore Alpha seizure was rendered permanently inoperable in 11 seconds of continuous impacts. The Bandar Abbas logistics depot was struck by 6 JASSM-ERs at 8:11 a.m., the fuel storage tanks and the maintenance workshop collapsing in a combined structural failure and secondary detonation. By 8:14 a.m., 57 minutes after the first IRGC patrol boat reached the Ardmore Alpha, every element of the response package had executed. The final accounting was documented by 5th Fleet and CENTCOM over the subsequent 48 hours. American civilians seized, 60. Time in IRGC custody, 34 minutes and 31 seconds. American civilians recovered unharmed, 60. American civilians sustaining any injury, 0. IRGC boarding personnel secured aboard the Ardmore Alpha, 31. IRGC boarding personnel who abandoned the platform by entering the water, 17. Total IRGC boarding party personnel status, all 48 accounted for, none having sustained fatal outcomes in the platform recovery operation. All 31 secured personnel transferred to U.S. Navy custody and subsequently to Omani Coast Guard custody at Muscat for processing under international maritime law. IRGC patrol boats at the Ardmore Alpha waterline, 4, all rendered inoperable by Hellfire engagement. IRGC patrol boats at Siri Island Pier, 11 of 12 rendered inoperable. IRGC patrol boats at Levan Island Pier, 8 of 8 rendered inoperable. Total IRGC patrol boat force rendered inoperable, 23 of 24. IRGC Qeshm Island headquarters, permanently inoperable, structural collapse confirmed. Bandar Abbas Logistics Depot, rendered inoperable. American aircraft lost 0. All F-35As returned to Al Dhafra and Al Udeid. All F/A-18S recovered aboard USS Harry S. Truman. Both MH-60Ms returned to Al Muharraq. American service members sustaining any injury, 0. The Ardmore Alpha resumed crude oil processing operations at 11:30 a.m., 4 hours and 16 minutes after the boarding commenced. Her 60 American personnel were transferred to a support vessel at 10 a.m. and transported to Bahrain, where they were assessed by medical personnel, cleared, and provided communications access to contact their families. All 60 were in contact with their families by noon. The platform's daily production of 300,000 barrels resumed uninterrupted on the following morning. In Tehran, the Supreme National Security Council met at 9 a.m. to assess what had occurred. The fortress they had selected for its impregnability had been in IRGC hands for 34 minutes. The 48 boarding personnel were in foreign custody. The command node on Qeshm Island was rubble. 23 patrol boats, the operational core of the IRGC Navy's Northern Gulf Surface Force, were inoperable. The crude oil had not protected anything. The platform had not been the perfect fortress. It had been a fixed target that was well known, well mapped, well rehearsed, and surrounded by water that allowed helicopter assault from any direction, at any time. A unilateral de-escalation statement was issued at 2 p.m. The IRGC's state media described the personnel in foreign custody as having been involved in a maritime safety incident. No footage of American personnel in IRGC custody was ever released. The boarding had lasted 34 minutes. No photograph existed of a single American in IRGC hands. The Ardmore Alpha processed 300,000 barrels on Thursday. It processed 300,000 barrels on Friday. This is what happens when you select an offshore platform as an untakeable fortress because it contains 2 million barrels of crude oil, and believe that oil is a shield against a force that selected every weapon in its loadout specifically to operate in proximity to crude oil without igniting it. This is what happens when you place 60 American civilians on a fixed structure surrounded by open water and calculate that the sky above it is safe because you brought no air defense. The sky above the Ardmore Alpha was never safe. It was never unguarded. The aircraft watching it from 8,000 feet arrived before the boarding party finished crossing the rail. The platform is producing. The Americans are home. The watch continues.